Welcome to another episode of This is Culture. If you're a fan of the show and you enjoy what we're doing, please leave it down below in the comments. Also, don't forget to give us a share, a like, even hit that notification bell. And now in this week's show, turn the power off.
Yeah, turn the power off, change the Wi-Fi password, something. Yeah.
Anything.
Again, I was struggling in school with dyslexia. It was really depressing to be in school and not really, in my eye, not making any progress in learning, but I could come here and make something with my hands. It was really rewarding.
So I guess the best way to do is for me to start about the history.
Yes,
so
please.
The American Dream Mall in the Meadowlands is going to open October 25th.
Welcome everyone to episode 12 of This is Culture. If you've ever wondered who's that guy I'm talking to behind the camera, well, he's here today. Our producer, Mike Giglio.
What's going on, everybody?
So he's going to join us today for Culture Trends. Wow! The first thing we're going to talk about today is the new Joker movie. It's coming out. It's out.
The new Joker movie's out.
I haven't seen it yet.
I haven't seen it yet either. It's definitely on my agenda. I really love character-driven movies, and I've kind of fallen off the comic book movies, but I think this one's really interesting because it's really following the creation of who the Joker is as a person.
Yeah, I heard they got really deep on this one. It's more psychological than it is action-packed and things like that, but it broke all box office records and it's doing great. So
Yeah, it's cool. I think they start following the perception of reality from the character's point of view, and it really messes with the audience's mind.
Yeah.
And I love that, when you just don't know what's coming, or you don't know what you're watching is real. It reminds me of Inception, or maybe even The Sixth Sense.
I see dead people.
And,
so maybe the bad guy is not really such a bad guy after all.
We'll see, I guess.
Yeah, I gotta check it out. Mike, the next thing I want to talk to you about is Fortnite. I know you're addicted to this game, but so are a lot of other kids. And in Canada, they actually have a lawsuit going on because parents think the game is way too addictive.
Yeah, I saw this. I actually have never played the game.
We actually have lives.
I think I missed the wave, and I just wouldn't have been good at it because everybody else was so good. But yeah, they're starting a class action lawsuit because these parents think that, I think there's a 15-year-old and a 10-year-old, their kids, same parents, same kids, are addicted. They don't take showers, they don't eat, they don't go out, and it just shows what kind of crazy world we live in, that the parents are willing to blame the video game instead of actually be good parents to their kids and maybe limit their access to that game.
Yeah, I think there's some deeper-seated problems than just the video game in that family.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean, if you look, you could be addicted to any video game, and they actually, I think, related the game to the addiction of cocaine.
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
And to me, that's wild. Like, it's a video game. You could actually limit how much they play, and maybe they wouldn't have been so addicted to begin with.
Absolutely. Turn the power off.
Yeah, turn the power off, change the Wi-Fi password, something.
Anything, okay? Now, the last thing I want to talk to you about is it's fall. What is your favorite fall activities, bud? Besides staying warm next to the fireplace?
Well, yeah, so it's one of my favorite times of year. I call it hoodie and shorts season. I throw on one of my hoodies, some shorts, and I have an unpopular opinion. I hate fall activities. I hate pumpkin picking. I hate apple picking. I don't understand why people do it. ShopRite has plenty of them for you to go get, and they've done the hard work already.
Sure.
But if I had to pick a favorite, this is the best time for sports fans.
Yeah.
You got every single sport is in action right now. Basketball starting, hockey starting, soccer's ending. Football is, getting in the midst. You know what's going on, and one of my favorites, baseball, is in the playoffs. Go Yanks! They did great this week. We just won the division series. We're moving on to the championship series, and I'm hoping for the best this year. A nice extended season, so I can go to that parade.
The Yankees win!
See, I was under the impression you were more of a pumpkin spice latte, Ugg-wearing kind of guy.
No.
You don't wear the Uggs
anymore. No, I actually tried the pumpkin, and I don't understand why everybody likes it. I don't know. I've tried from multiple different coffee places, and I think these these teenage girls are barking up the wrong tree. I don't know, their decision making is pretty poor. Pumpkin spice.
I've never had the honor of trying one. Maybe I'll make it a must do.
Yeah, don't waste your $4.
Well, guys, that brings up a good question. What is your favorite fall activity? We'd love to know about it. Leave it down below in the comments. Okay, Mike, so that leads us into our topic of the day, which is pursuing your passion. And today we have a great example on our Check This. Recently, we had the ability to go and check out the Hebrew Hammer in his workshop down in Trenton. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so the Hebrew Hammer is a blacksmith. We actually met him when we highlighted Wild West City in Stanhope.
Yeah.
And he's the hired blacksmith at the show there, and he was really interested in what we were doing, and he wanted us to come check him out, and I'm glad we did. Talking about pursuing passion, he was diagnosed with dyslexia at the age of 7 or 8, and hated going to school. He was really depressed, and he went to some fair when he was about that age, and would just spent hours watching the blacksmith. And eventually he was invited to use the hammer and you know, make some tools or whatever he was able to make, and found his passion. And it's really great to go along with this topic because it's given him a career, it's given him happiness, it's really everything he needs to be in life or wants from life, he's getting from being a blacksmith, of all things that, you know, you would think doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. And this guy found his passion doing it.
Yeah. This is a really cool segment. So guys, check it out, see what you think.
My name is Daniel Lapidow. I'm 27 years old. I work here at the Blacksmith in Trenton. Normal day of my life as a blacksmith, I get here around 6:45, 7, feed the dog, check the message on the phone, people who call us about work or lessons, then I'll get my fire going. I work here for myself, and I work for Sasha, the master smith, whose family's run the shop for generations.
My name is Alexander Vasilovich Porochenko. I used to play a viola, and every Saturday I'd go for lessons from the viola. Coming back one day, I hear, and here is a Russian blacksmith forging away. I said, wow. In Russian, I told him, can I learn? He says, yeah, no problem at all. So every Saturday, instead of going to the school, I'd go to the blacksmith shop and forge, making nails and all that stuff. I'd come back home nice and dirty and all that stuff. My mother would say, how come you're dirty? I said, they never cleaned the schools. I got away with that for 2 years. And then we arrived in America. I finished high school, Trenton High, finished Rutgers with a degree in nuclear physics. I spent 3 years working at midnight to 7 for the telephone company as a manager. At that time, my father-in-law had a chance to buy this business out in '71. So I went with him, we bought the business out. I decided, yeah, I'm gonna be a blacksmith, starting back with what is my love. The blacksmith shop dates back from 1823. I have deeds and documents going that far back. I believe it's the oldest continuous working business in Trenton. And we still hold up the tradition of blacksmithing.
My first exposure to blacksmithing was at the age of 7 or 8. In Lambertville, in Jersey, there's a living history farm called Howell Living History Farm. They have events every Saturday, and one Saturday when I was young, my mom took me and my sister there, and there's a blacksmith there working in their shop. After watching for about, I would say, hour and a half, he asked eventually, do you want a hammer? So he helped me make a little J-hook, a little hook that has a hole for a screw. And that was my first exposure to it. The big thing was at the age of around 7 and 8, I was diagnosed with dyslexia, and I was having a really hard time in school. But my mom would take us to Howell Farm a lot. You know, after a long week of school, I was depressed and upset. She took me there, and occasionally when the blacksmith was there, he let me hammer. And I told my art teacher at the private school in Newgrange that I was playing around with blacksmithing. She said, oh, there's a blacksmith shop down the road from our school. And then she convinced my parents to take me here one day on a Saturday, and I met Sasha, and I started working with him every Saturday for about 2 years as an apprentice. Again, I was struggling in school with dyslexia. It was really depressing to be in school and not really, in my eye, not making any progress in learning, but I could come here and make something with my hands. It was really rewarding. One of my favorite aspects of being a blacksmith is being able to make my own tools. Blacksmith is the king of crafts. They don't make everybody else's tools, they make their own as well. And that's part of the satisfaction, is looking at a piece or online or in a book going, I want to make that. But you have to step back and say, okay, what tools do I have to make that piece happen? And you got to think about, where did that come from? Where did the first hammer come from? Where did the first anvil come from? You know, it all progressed on how they all came from making their own tools.
Stop. Hammer time.
Yo, I told you, you can't touch this. Why you standing there, man? You can't touch it.
So moving right along, we recently had the opportunity to interview Jim Kirkos, the CEO of the Meadowlands Chamber of Commerce, who fulfilled his passion by becoming a businessman. Let's see what he had to say. Welcome everyone. Today I'm joined with Jim Kirkos. He is the CEO and president of the Meadowlands Chamber. I am so glad you're with us today, because a lot of our audience are entrepreneurs, and a lot of our audience are young people aspiring to be entrepreneurs. And you've been around entrepreneurs your entire life, and you also started off as an entrepreneur. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got into business?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me. I love having these kinds of conversations, talking about my past, talking about what my business organization does and our mission. I started out back in the 80s as an entrepreneur. Left college halfway through it to open up a restaurant and become a caterer. Eventually, my company was managing corporate dining facilities and cafeterias. Loved being in hospitality, loved making people happy, and it was hard work, a lot of hard work, a lot of rough times, but it was a very rewarding business. And through probably about 10 or 15 of the 20-somewhat years I was in business, I was a member of the Meadowlands Chamber back then. And when I sold my business in August of 2001, just before 9/11, chamber-related business represented almost 43% of my total sales.
Look at that.
So the organization worked for me, and I learned a lot by rubbing elbows with seasoned business owners and executives, and it was a great opportunity for me to network and share my business.
Nowadays, being an entrepreneur is like the coolest thing, right? Everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, everybody wants to be in business, but back in the early 80s, I'm sure your parents weren't excited or thrilled about you not going into maybe corporate America or doing something that's more like a real job, you know? So did you have any opposition, or were your parents completely for you doing what you did?
So initially, when I told my mom and dad that I was gonna, and I was the first one in my family to go to college, so when I told them that I just wasn't happy going to school to be an accountant, because that's the track that my guidance counselor had put me on, and it just wasn't working for me, and halfway through college I decided to open up the restaurant.
Look at that.
That was not an easy conversation. Mom and Dad were not happy about it. However, they did become my partner.
Oh, look at that.
And so we opened up a family breakfast and lunch restaurant in the heart of my town, which was Lyndhurst.
Yeah.
It was called My Place. And I cooked right next to my mom. We did that together. As a family, we built a thriving, local eatery.
Those must have been some of the best years of your life, right? Working alongside mom and dad.
So I got to tell you, so the only reason I really moved and elevated the business to something else is because my mom and dad were working too hard.
Okay.
Because the restaurant business is a hard business.
Oh yeah, day and night.
It's day and night, and it's a labor of love, and cooking and cleaning and making sure everything was just perfect was kind of like in our blood. But I didn't want mom and dad to have to work that hard as they were getting up in their years. So my brother and I, we sold the restaurant, moved into the catering business. But yes, it was tremendously rewarding, and we still have great laughs, and we sit around during holidays and we think about it. In fact, I bump into people in my community right now that remember all the good times they had when they came to the restaurant. Yeah. And that happens today, and it's 30 years later.
Yeah, sometimes we don't know what we're preparing ourselves for. So being in the restaurant business, you got to meet so many people from the area, which probably helped you on your next chapter, which was the chamber. So tell us how you got into the chamber and what that was like.
So it was really funny because the restaurant was open up early in the morning. So I used to go to work, put on my whites and my checkered pants, and I'd be there from 5:30 in the morning. And then if there was a chamber meeting, I'd go inside, I'd take off my whites and my apron, I'd freshen up, I'd put on a shirt and tie, and I'd run to a chamber meeting to act and look like a bigger business person, right? And I would network and I would build relationships and I would learn, and then I would go back and put my whites back on and get back in the kitchen and work, and did that for a bunch of years until my business grew to the point where I could hire a chef, have them cook, and I could work on running the business and building the business.
Sure. What must someone understand about cash flow that they don't get from just hearing the term or maybe getting a 30-second explanation? What is the most important thing about cash flow, like you just explained?
I think when you talk about cash flow, it's really more about business planning. And so you understand your capital needs and how cash operates if you take the time to put together a really proper business plan. And anybody that goes into business today winging it, it's a recipe for disaster. You have to have a business plan. You have to sit down with professionals, business consultants, other entrepreneurs, and build your plan. And I see it today, even when it comes to understanding the cash and the capital side of businesses, even on the marketing side. Companies, young businesses rarely have marketing budgets.
Exactly.
And I'm going to tell you a story about when I went into business. So in the heart of Lyndhurst, there was a new bank opening up. And the guys that were opening up this bank were also lawyers. And I was on the Board of Education at the time in Lyndhurst. And the people that were opening up the bank were two guys that also did legal work for the Board of Education. So after a board meeting one day, I said to him, I want to come down and see you one day because I need to borrow some money for my business. He said, come down on a Saturday. So I go down on a Saturday, we're having a cup of coffee. He says, bring your business plan. Okay. So this was a Wednesday night. I didn't have a business plan.
Okay.
I wrote a business plan between Wednesday and Saturday,
Okay.
so I can go down there and ask this guy to borrow money.
Sure.
So I do my homework. I write what I think is a business plan. I go down there on a Saturday. I show him my business plan. He says, how much you want to borrow? I said, $25,000. He says, you don't need $25,000. I said, I don't? He says, no, you need 40, and here's why. He opens up my business plan. He proceeds to show me where I was a little undercapitalized and the fact that I didn't have no money in there for marketing. And then he looked at me and he says, you're going to pay me back? And I was like, of course I'm going to pay you back. And that's how I got the loan. It was a 100% character loan. I tell this to bankers all the time because they don't do that anymore. It's a 100% character loan. He knew I was a hard worker. He knew my family, and he knew I would pay him back. But the moral of that story is he recognized that I needed to understand, the capital needs of the business, and the fact that I needed a marketing budget, and I didn't have the wherewithal or the know-how to know that.
Absolutely.
And so I learned those lessons along the way.
Sure. And one other thing you touched on is growing too quickly. How can that be detrimental?
Well, growing too quickly just means you don't have the resources, you don't have the staffing. And my accountant back in the day used to say to me, "Look, and here's how you're going to grow. You're here right now. You're going to spend some money on your staff so that you can grow your sales to here, and you just grow as you grow. You build your company, you build your internal resources. When you try to go to here, you can never manage it properly. You can never control that. You can never give your customers the kind of care. It's got to be carefully managed, and all that's got to be part of your business plan.
I like that.
You have to identify your successes, and you have to identify your obstacles and have potential solutions ready for those obstacles.
I like that. Good. So tell us more about your podcast and how you're reaching out to the new millennials and the new business owners.
So the National Association of Chamber Executives did a future study a bunch of years ago, and they identified that organizations like ours, we were going to grow old and die if we didn't find ways to be relevant to the young emerging leaders, the millennial market, and entrepreneurs coming in. So that's what kind of set me off and our organization off into some of the initiatives. And so one of our most recent initiatives that's working tremendously is our something called our Emerging Leaders Program. And we have it's all run by young entrepreneurs and young executives, even if they're in enterprise level companies that want to grow through the ranks of corporate. Not everybody wants to be their own business. Some people just want to figure out how to grow within their company. And be those great executives. So we put all those folks together so they can network amongst themselves. And then we've launched a podcast series called the Emerging Leader Podcast. If you search that, Meadowlands Emerging Leader Podcast, you'll find it on iTunes and all the places. And we interview both young guns, entrepreneurs and seasoned executives, and they're both telling their stories. And we think there's some really dynamic lessons there, and we're just going to continue that. We record one a week, and we release every other week.
Okay.
So we always have a little bit of an inventory of that, and we're going to continue that into the future. And soon, I'm building out new office space in Lyndhurst for our organization, and we're going to build a little studio.
Nice.
Kind of like what we're in right now.
That's awesome.
And so that we can grow our YouTube channel, and we can produce some emerging leader types of sessions, so that we can be a little bit more effective at communicating these types of lessons like you and I are having right now.
So that's awesome. I mean, that's where millennials are all geared to learning from now, is online. They want to see everything on YouTube, Instagram. They want to be on podcasts. So it's good that you're reaching out to them, because just like the Chamber is an older, how would I say, organization, and your average age is probably in the 50s somewhere, so is real estate. You know, real estate, the average age is 57 for a real estate agent, and it's slowly coming down now, but it's because millennials don't know how rewarding, you know, this could be as an option for being you know, in real estate. You know, how are you guys combating it besides the podcast and things of that nature?
I think it's just really understanding that we need to deliver and communicate in lots of different ways.
Yeah.
And even when I shared with you a minute ago that we're building out new office space.
Yeah.
So the space that we're building out now is basically going to be a networking hub that our members can use
whenever,
every day of the week.
Okay.
It's almost kind of like an open office, shared space that comes included with your membership.
That is really cool.
We're going to have a podcast studio that a member can rent at a reasonable cost if they want to do their own podcast.
Yeah.
We want to provide small business and young entrepreneurial business with the resources that they may not have when they first start their business.
You guys are really forward thinking.
To kind of give them, and we want to be forward thinking. So thank you for saying that. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to be forward thinking so that our members have a place to go. We want them to collaborate. We can see this place open every day, and maybe even on Saturdays. Yeah. Right. So that a member can come anytime they want. You're a member, I'm a member. I say, hey, let's meet at the hub. We go there, we have a cup of coffee, we sit in a huddle room, I show you a presentation, you give me your thoughts, we meet up somebody else. You just never know where that networking, where that next piece of business, where that next learning is going to come from.
Or who's going to walk through the door.
Oh, who's going to walk through the door, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely, that's great. So you guys also, I heard you say, have a mastermind.
Yep.
Yeah, so what is your goal with the mastermind?
Again, that was another one of the tools in the toolbox to make sure that we're being relevant to young entrepreneurs. Of course. So we want to have the podcast, we want to have a video series, we want to communicate in the ways that they want to communicate, and we want to do our learning and information sessions in ways that they're used to.
I like that.
And so you just, again, that's how we're just trying all of those things so that we can be relevant and make sure. You said something before about the older age. Well, I worry about that, right? Because I don't want a young entrepreneur to think of a Chamber of Commerce as, well, that's the way my father did business. I'm doing to do business differently. I don't need the Chamber. I'm going to get my networking here. We know we can be effective. We know we can help teach, professionally develop, and build relationships and potentially sales through our organization. Yeah. But the image, our brand has got to be different.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to do right now. We're changing our brand, and we're trying to say, you want to know what? We're not your father's Chamber of Commerce. We're the Chamber of the future.
Yeah, we get it.
And this umbrella covers everybody, including young entrepreneurs.
Right now, your dynamic is about to completely change. You have this huge mall that's being opened up in the Meadowlands, and they're going to obviously be participants in the Chamber. How is that going to change the Chamber? Is it going to bring a new breath of fresh air? What do you feel it's going to do? And tell us a little bit about that.
So I guess the best way to do is for me to start about the history.
Yes,
so
please.
The American Dream Mall in the Meadowlands is going to open October 25th.
Sure.
And so, but the history of this goes back 15 years. The original developers were building something called Xanadu, and that was predominantly a retail mall with a couple of entertainment pieces.
Got it.
We fast forward to today. The third developer that's trying to build this are the owners of Mall of America and the West Edmonton Mall in Alberta, Canada.
Look at that.
So they are experienced entertainment and mall operators, and so their mix of all the square footage at American Dream is 55% entertainment, 45% retail.
Look at that.
In all the other malls, including Mall of America, I think Mall of America only has 25% entertainment components. There's an indoor amusement park with multiple roller coasters and 26 rides that will, with some of which is the tallest drop rides in the country.
Wow.
In fact, their roller coaster goes through the roof and lets you look at Lower Manhattan before it drops you down. And they're wild. Hard for me to explain in words. You'll have to come see it. There's also an indoor water park, and that water park will have some of the tallest drop slides in the world, and a wave pool and a surfing area.
Wow.
It's phenomenal.
Why go anywhere else?
Right, and so all of the entertainment features, an aquarium, the indoor ski dome, 14 or 15 white tablecloth restaurants, Madame Tussauds, in all kinds of Lego Discovery Zone, New Jersey Hall of Fame, all of these entertainment and many more as part of this particular project. So American Dream will make us a primary destination in the Meadowlands. When you add that destination asset to MetLife Stadium, the Meadowlands racetrack, who, by the way, right now just overtook Las Vegas as the largest sports betting venue in the country.
Look at really
right. So now the glory of the Meadowlands Sports Complex back in the '70s is coming back.
Yeah,
it's coming back,
and the proximity to New York.
And listen, we're 12 minutes away from the greatest city in the world.
Of course, that's insane. That's
so it makes us a primary destination. We think that's good for a number of reasons. A, I think we will have a greater opportunity to bring in more people to fill hotel rooms. When they fill hotel rooms, I can get them into local downtown businesses, local retail stores, places like American Dream. And my job is to make sure they're spending their discretionary dollars here in New Jersey and not just getting on a bus or a train and spending it all in New York City.
I get it. Well, good. Everything you said today was amazing stuff. How can people find out more about your chamber?
So the easiest thing is we just redid our website and all of our branding. Our website is really very explanatory. It's meadowlands.org, O-R-G. Lots of information there. We're easy. Any of my team is easy to find. And certainly my contact information is right there. So please feel free to contact me.
Good. And once again, the name of the podcast that the chamber does?
Meadowlands Emerging Leaders Podcast.
Meadowlands Emerging Leader Podcast. That sounds great. Well, that's awesome, brother. Thank you for joining us
today.
My
pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And thank you guys for watching. Once again, Jim Kirkos. He is the man. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Wow, another amazing show. If you guys enjoyed it, please don't forget to give us a comment, a like, a share, even hit that notification bell. Thanks again for watching. See you later.